Before we begin, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Amazon Music for partnering with me on this episode of Chasing Creativity, but more on this later. Let's get right into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Chasing Creativity. This is Kiran Manral, and today we have with us Swara Patel, who's a dear friend, and she's done something really unusual with her life course. Swara has done her MBA and then she's moved completely to dance. She's a dance educator now, a dance therapist, and also an entrepreneur amongst the various hats she wears. She's the director of Rhythmic Happy Feet Dance Academy. Welcome to Chasing Creativity, Swara.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm so glad to be on this podcast.
I'm glad you're here, Swara, because, it's so important to know about people who have done the tried and trusted. They've gone and done the MBA. They were supposed to be on the track to the corporate world. And suddenly something creative, the arts beckons them. So how did that shift come about for you?
So I reached a point in life where, I would see a dance performance and I'll have goosebumps. And there were tears in my eyes, and I kept feeling this is what I'm supposed to do, or this is what I'm meant to do. And it was a clear understanding this was my calling.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then I started, I started training after the birth of my second child.
Okay.
I had no previous training before that.
Really?
Yeah. So my first ever dance class was when I was 28 and a half.
And they say you can't learn dance late.
Exactly. So it's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true.
So I do have another friend of mine, Anuja Chandramouli, who's also a writer, and she has 2 children, and she's also started learning Bharatanatyam, and now she's performing at a later age. And we know of Protima Bedi, who was a dancer and then went and learned Odyssey, I think pretty late in life after she had her children. So I think you and the others also defy that stereotype. But as a child, Swara, when you were growing up, did dance play any part in your life apart from, watching it as a spectator? Were you a good dancer at family functions? Did that happen to you?
So I would close the door. Bathroom singers. I was a close the door and dance.
You're
Always. Not a bathroom, room dancer. I don't know.
Closed room dancer.
Closed room dancer. So that was my hobby all of the time while growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would even gather a friend and we would, sit on the music and dance. That's it. I would not say I was a great dancer or always noticed, but definitely a little better dancer.
Okay.
And I grew up with lots of love for dance. But sometimes, as they say, you find your calling when you have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was not a great student.
Okay.
And growing up, those times, the awareness of, you can study is the first thing, right? If you can't study, you can't do anything because you cope up with this first, then will think of dance. That's the way we were brought up. I was brought up that way. So I never reached dancing because I could never finish studying.
So once you finished studying, you decided to take up dance.
Yeah. And my family, my grandfather was a PhD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're all engineers and all those.
So very academically inclined.
Very academically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Very academically inclined. So I was like, so maybe they didn't even realize that I would close the door, and every time, like today, if my daughter would do that, we would notice, oh, she loves it. Let's try that. Yeah, but I think it was different those time, right?
Yeah, it was just study.
Study, yeah.
So when you decided you'd done your MBA, you were in fast track in the corporate world, you had your babies, and you decided, I am going to focus on dance. What was the moment? Was there an incident or something that happened that set you on this path? I'm sure there must have been some triggering moment that led to this.
So, to be very frank, I'm a typical Gujru girl who did studies not to be in corporate, but just to study. Yeah,
Okay.
I would not lie about that.
Okay.
So I never entered the corporate world, but I had a good degree. I come from a family which is full of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so every vacation I used to be in my dad's office.
Okay.
So those were the exposure I got with working or something. But then, as I said, I reached, I would say the turning point would be when I was doing my MBA, I participated in dance in that school. And that got me a lot of accolades. First time I felt that. And then I kept feeling that this is what I need to do. Because what happens is, I'll tell you, how much ever good you are at dance. Yeah. Once you grow up and you're in college, people are professional. So even if I would go for audition in college, I would not get chosen because I was not trained. Yeah. So I was in Mithibai. I went for multiple audition, but it would not go. I would not go through because you need training. And these, how people are nowadays in college. They are like pro right from the college.
Absolutely.
Especially in a field like dancing where it involves young talent. Like I told you, when I started dancing at age 29, I walked in the classroom. They were all 16, 17 years stretching and putting their leg up, and I don't know what all they were doing. It was that first month was quite intimidating. Being with 14, 15-year-old, and trying to be fit in that class.
But I'm sure because you came in with more life experience, with more, I would say, passion towards it, because, right, you had done what you had to do and you've come to it determined to make this your calling. So I'm sure there was a point where you realized that, okay, they may be young, they may have this flexibility, they may have all that, but I bring more to the table than they do. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, that happened after a year and a half training. Not initially. Initially, I was just trying to fit in and get things. I could not really find my differentiator then. Yeah. But after I got out of the training and I started building my own dance academy, or figured out what should I do with dance now. Yeah. Being a mom of 2 little kids, Sangeet and going odd hours was not something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in routine. Again, performing, being on stage, they're all 17, 18 years of doing it. Yeah. So then I was saying, what would I be able to do really well in dance? And exactly what you said, I found my differentiator. When I started looking for dance classes for my children, okay, I really could not find one good one. When I say not a good one, means what I mean by this is lot of even big names know what to teach. Yeah. But when it comes to how to teach, especially with children, it's a different study by itself. Yeah. So right now, I realized even the big companies are filled with what, and there's less of how. Yeah. Because when you teach children, it's how is very important than just the steps.
Okay.
So that's a gap I filled big time. That's the reason we are in so many schools now. And we say we specialize in teaching children dance. That's what we call our self-academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now when you're choreographing and when you're planning your dance pieces, do you find yourself gravitating more to one style or the other, or do you prefer to do a blend? How does it happen for you?
It depends on the music, depends on the song, depends on what are we trying to achieve through the piece. I choose a form. It's not the form over what we're trying to convey. It's what you're trying to convey, then the form.
Okay.
So whatever goes well.
Okay.
What would, when you do a performance and it requires certain delivery of an emotion or a story, depending on that.
Okay. If someone wants to become a dancer at this point, and I wouldn't maybe say a young girl or a young woman, what are the things you would like them to know before they take this up professionally?
Yes.
Not as a hobby, not as
yeah.
but taking it up professionally, what is it that they must be prepared for?
So all the unconventional career, or I would say the art career, okay, where it's dance, music, even sports, they start very early. So you have to be with a company or doing something with it by the time you're 18, 19.
Okay.
Like my older daughter, she's doing her computer engineering. So her after 12th is when she starts choosing a field. Yeah, and then you become what you want to become. For all careers like dance or something, the training starts very early. So if you miss the right time, even if you start training 10, 11, 12, the peak for training is between, I would say, 13 to 18. 13 to 18 is the peak. So don't miss that peak.
The body spurt, growth spurt happens at that point.
So,
yes.
Because there's something you can do at certain window, 18. And then you have to be performing and into the company. So if you're very sure, I would like to say something to the parents who are, who see this in their children, a spark for such careers. वो लोग क्या बोलते हैं कि they would say that give your 10th, give your 12th, and then you do this. They have missed that peak.
As a parent of somebody who was a state level swimmer.
Okay.
I know I did the same thing that, it's 10th now and you have to focus on
Can't do
your 10th.
that, yeah.
And of course, he was only too happy not have to get up at 4 o'clock every day. So that worked out that way. But I get what you're saying, 13 to 18 is the
It's a
peak,
peak.
when the hormones hit, when the body is growing, and when you learn that muscle memory of moving. For somebody who wants to get into dance late like you did, maybe after they have sort of gone through their mid-20s, they've had babies, the body has changed. Yeah, nobody, I mean, we don't talk about it enough as to how much the female body changes with childbirth and what it takes away from you. What advice would you give these women?
So I would say that I'm a biggest example of starting late and still doing pretty well in a career which is meant for young people. So just start. So don't think a lot. They don't start and they really want to do it, but they don't end up doing. Just start and start training. At least for 2 years, you'll find your way.
Swara, tell me about how you learned to teach dance. Because it's not something that you can perform. You can be a dancer. But teaching children is something that is, as you said, it's a science. It's not just an art. So what was your process like? Did you have to qualify for it? Did you have to learn? What did you go through?
Yeah, the amazing thing about today is if you want to learn, it's all available for free. Like Google, reading. So the knowledge is available so much. It's all out there. Yeah. So to be very frank, there is nobody who is teaching how to teach dance.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started looking for books and I found immense research done in West. So I called for all those books. And then I started seeing those books, teaching pedagogy and many more things. I got CDs, those days, instead of CDs of how a class is conducted. And I started doing my own research. And I realized, oh my God, there is so much research and things done. Movement and child development are like two sides of coin. The brain development in your first 5 years of life is happening a lot because of the move you make. Yeah, the movement which a child does. So then I realized, and then I did dance therapy, where again, the teaching and psychology and everything came into picture. And I would say, as I said, that nowadays, if you want to learn, it's everything there.
Okay. So you can educate yourself. So you're an autodidact.
Absolutely. In fact, you won't believe, through my interest in teaching, I now today train academic teachers on how to teach. So when I was in Orchid School, I headed Performing Arts Division and there were around 35 schools under me.
Okay.
So I went in for a role as a performing arts head in the central team. And for the first year, I took teacher training across 2,000 teachers for all academic teachers.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I've realized, and the experience, obviously, not just, and then a hands-on experience of being there and doing things and figuring out what worked. And now if you ask me what is about teaching, it's about knowing a child.
Okay.
I tell my teacher, they say KYC, and like,
know your child.
Yeah, it starts with there. That's what it starts. The more interest you take and figuring out how will my teaching reach and my teaching is received well for that child, not for the whole class.
So one-on-one is the way to go. Know each individual's child's mental makeup and interests and how their body responds.
We have to know that.
Yeah. But in a large classroom, isn't that rather difficult? How does a teacher do that?
Yeah, it is a tough call, but the child is with you for a year. So it is not that difficult. If you really want to do it, it's possible. So when I train my teacher, I tell them that the first month, it's a settling month. First month is Know Your Child month. The studies can take back seat. Whatever you're teaching the content can take back seat. Yeah. So if you have to stop the class and help a child or understand a child or talk to them to know something, stop the class. If you keep your focus right, you can know it in 1 month. And the whole year, you know what to do. But you have to keep your focus right. Again, if I'm talking about dancing, if you talk about schools, the child is there in the school for years and years and years and years. So it's very much possible.
Yeah.
So much possible, but the intention of knowing has to be there.
Yeah, but also I think with teachers changing every grade, class teachers, then that becomes a little
No,
difficult.
so then they had, so nowadays in schools you hand over the child's notes, just like how
Mhm.
this child was like, I forgot the name for it. What is it called? But there is a handover from one teacher to another teacher.
Okay.
So a lot of time there's a whole. They say when you hand over, you are labeling a child and you're already giving the next teacher
A preconceived notion about what the child
about the
is
child
saying.
is. So I'm saying yes, but you're also giving. If the teacher is right, the teacher can take that information and do wonders.
Okay.
So it depends on how the teacher sees it. It's such an important piece of information which needs to go. But then it's not about labeling or preconceived notion. It's about what you do with it.
How much time do you give to Riyaz every day? I'm sure you must be having some sort of set routine for practice, your own practice.
Yeah. So right now I'm not completely training, but I take a Bollywood fitness class and do teacher training with my. But when I used to train completely and I used to perform and all, that was a time at least 2.5 hours a day of self work.
Okay.
The body, strength, flexibility, of course the dance and technique.
Okay. And apart from that, did you also have to do some fitness routines to keep yourself limber, or was dance?
Absolutely. So when you really train as a dancer, it's really funny, but in a dance class of 1.5 hours, 1 hour you'll be only exercising. Where you're strengthening, you're working on your flexibility, you're working on agility much more, and they'll make you dance for half an hour. That's how it is. Because that's a tool, right?
When you sit down to choreograph pieces, now you say it depends on the music you just mentioned, or it depends on various other things. How do you sort of incorporate the strengths of your individual children within the piece, because some children are good at certain things, some are not.
Right.
And how do you make sure that everybody gets something that they are comfortable performing with?
So the first thing is you have to create an age-appropriate choreography. Because usually in a class, you cannot have a 4-year-old and 10-year-old or 10-year-old and 16-year-old. Until 15, there has to be a clear age bifurcation. After 15, they can be together.
Okay.
Yeah. So first thing, when you create that, and then if you know how to set the choreography right for the level, your job becomes very easy. You'll be able to accommodate everybody, just like a school. Yeah, the syllabus is set keeping the average child in mind. And then when the child is really good, you push them and give them a little different move in the same choreography. And, give them a center or give them some different move and help the child to level up. Okay. So it depends a lot on how you structure your class. Choreographies. I think are you confused or?
No. I'm clear on that. I'm just wondering in terms of, okay, there are some kids who are natural dancers.
Yeah.
And they'll do beautifully.
Yeah.
And some who have 2 left feet. So bringing them all together in one piece and making sure one doesn't feel that I've been made a tree for the entire show.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that's a challenge that I'm sure
it is a challenge. It is a challenge in every field of teaching. We call it differentiated learning. Okay. There's a word for it. It's called differentiated learning, where, as you say, each child, you figure out what is required for them. So that also requires change in choreography. It requires in the same class. Yeah, it requires.
Now you train children. You also train adults in fitness classes. What is the one thing that you feel adults should learn from children when it comes to dance? So, when a lot of time they decide to come to class, they take at least 10 follow-ups from my side to come to class. Really? They really want to come. They really want to join. But they just, it's dancing is little, they find inhibited. They feel little that. So I tell them, start. You want to do it. I meet people and say, Swara, oh my God, I want to start dancing. I've always loved dancing. I want to come to your class. And I come. Once they come, you'll never go back. But come. With kids, they just come when they want to do it. And, with parents being so nowadays, you see the talent, the child will be in the class. Do same with yourself. How you make sure when your child loves dancing, you somehow find the place and put them there. Find a place for you and just come to class. Okay. Start. The adults take a lot of time to start.
they hesitate. I don't know why.
That's a lovely, lovely analogy, that treat yourself the same way you treat the
Yeah.
child. Yeah. What has Swara want to do that she has not done yet in the space of dance?
So, just giving you a little bit, as I said, I could not study well, and you asked me about MBA. I have discovered myself completely through dance. So what I am today is because of dance. People who met me before I started dancing will not believe the Swara I am today.
Really?
So it's the journey of self-discovery, journey of my strength, journey of, oh my God, I can do so much. Everything has started with dance, okay? For me, I really want to take our dance curriculum to schools, and I want to make dance available to every child and not just to children who are good at dancing. Because I genuinely feel dancing is for everybody. And it's not about steps, or it's not about a kriya or a riyaz, or it's not about learning art form, dance form. It's the joy
of movement.
Yeah, it's a joy of movement. And if I may ask you a question, when did humans start dancing? Like, what picture or what comes to your head?
Around the fires in the caves, I suppose.
Absolutely.
We were telling stories, then we were dancing then and singing.
Exactly. So I say we started dancing even before we started talking. Yeah. And imagine that hunter, I'm saying hunter, I'm trying to say they used to hunt and they used to cook their food, remember? So after tiring long day of hunt, end of the day again they're jumping. Yeah. Well, there has to be something about it, right?
Yeah.
It was a stress reliever. It's like a refresh button. Yeah. All the art form are like a refresh button. We are doing so much in life. You need that refresh button.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I've seen is a lot of children, and when we grow as an adult, we itch to dance. There's music playing. Yeah, but people don't get up and, I want to dance, but people don't get up. Yeah, because also of a conditioning since childhood, and the way dance is taught to be step oriented. That when you don't get things, you get very conscious. Yeah, you only see dance as performance, and you only see dance as to be able to do something well.
It's not seen as enjoyment.
Yeah, it's not just seen as source of joy, fun. And it is not introduced like that ever in school. So they would call me also in school, now abhi annual day hai come. This 7 days hai come.
So if you see cultures like in Africa, dance, their little children move with such grace.
Yeah.
Because I think, and even South America, I think dance is a part of the culture, everyday culture.
Yeah.
They just bring out their little drums and start dancing. So do we need to bring that sort of everyday dance culture back into our lives?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think traditionally we do have dances.
Yeah, we do have.
But somehow it's gone away.
It's gone away. And that's the reason we are resorting to other sort of joy, which is not good for us. We have all this drawing or painting or dancing and music. These are like tools which are amazing to cope with such fast life.
Lovely.
And we think it's taking away our time, but you don't know it's giving you much more time than what you need.
Lovely. I hope, Swara, that you manage to get this curriculum that you have in your mind out into schools. All the very best for all that you plan, Swara, and thanks so much for being part of the podcast.
It's my pleasure. It was wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Chasing Creativity. I wanted to say thank you to Amazon Music once again for partnering with me on this episode of this podcast.